The quiet hours of the night had always held a peculiar charm for him. Those liminal moments where the world slowed, where time seemed to unravel in silence. Perhaps that's why he accepted the position as the overnight security guard at the old Grantham Building, nestled in the forgotten veins of downtown. A crumbling monument to a bygone era, the Grantham Building was built in 1887, 5 floors of weathered stone, time-stained marble, and hallways that reeked of rust and rot. The walls whispered in the dark, not with the breath of modernity, but with the sighs of something older, deeper, and far less forgiving. His shift began at midnight and stretched until the fragile promise of dawn at 6. Most nights were uneventful. Circuitous patrols by flashlight, the occasional scribble in the logbook, idle scrolling through his phone to stave off the stillness. It was a routine he found comfort in. Until last Thursday. It was just past 2 in the morning when the silence cracked. The sound, footsteps, not hurried or random, but slow, deliberate, heavy. Each step echoed like a challenge, coming from the stairwell just below where he stood. He froze. Every instinct screamed for stillness as he strained to listen. But the steps ceased. What followed was not silence, but a pressure, an unnatural quiet that felt thick and oppressive, as if the air itself were watching him. He shook it off, rationalizing it away. Probably old plumbing, or some vagrant trying to sneak in. He descended to the 2nd floor via the elevator, the creaky steel box groaning like a coffin. As the doors parted with a reluctant sigh, his flashlight faltered, sputtering like a candle in a dying wind. The hallway lay before him, cloaked in shadows, with one anomaly, the storage room door. It stood ajar. That door had always been locked. He had checked it himself earlier in the shift. His breath puffed in front of him in white clouds. The temperature had dropped unnaturally, and the air carried the scent of mildew and something older, something sweet and rotten. He stepped forward. Inside, the room was as it had always been. Broken chairs, dusty file boxes, forgotten relics of bureaucracy. But this time, in the center of the room, beneath a single hanging bulb, stood a wooden chair, and in the chair, a figure slumped and still, wrapped in decaying cloth that clung like skin, pale, brittle. Its hair was sparse and yellowing, hanging like cobwebs over its face. It didn't move, but he did. Frozen in place, heart thundering, every cell in his body screaming for flight. Then the figure stirred. Its head rose slowly, revealing sunken eye sockets. Vast, black, empty. Where a mouth should have been, there was only flesh sewn shut with coarse black thread, puckered and angry. Yet despite its sealed lips, he heard a voice inside his mind, cold and brittle, like ice cracking on a lake. "You shouldn't be here." Terror broke his paralysis. He stumbled backward, dropping his flashlight. It rolled, casting wild arcs of light across the room. When he dared to look again, the figure was gone. The chair, now empty, rocked gently beneath the swaying bulb. He should have run, should have turned in his badge and never returned. But like something caught in a slow, inevitable descent, he did return the next night. He told himself it had been stress, sleep deprivation, a trick of the mind molded by a century-old building's haunted past. But at 2 a.m., the footsteps returned, slower now, closer. His flashlight flickered again. Compelled by something ancient and wordless, He walked the hall until he reached the storage room door. Once again, it stood open, waiting. Inside, the chair remained. But this time, the figure wasn't seated. It stood in the far corner, rigid, facing the wall, like a child punished in some long-forgotten ritual. It did not move. And yet, he knew. It had been waiting for him. Before he could flee, the door slammed behind him with a violence that shook the walls. The bulb overhead dimmed, flickered, and died. Darkness. Complete. Consuming. Alive. Then came the breathing. Wet, labored, almost curious. It surrounded him, inhaled him. He remembered nothing after that. But every morning since, he awoke in his own bed, filthy, blanketed in fine dust, his clothes stinking of mildew and the scent of rotting wood. And each night, his feet carried him back to the Grantham Building. Not by choice, but by some compulsion carved into his bones. He no longer clocked in. He no longer carried his flashlight. He simply walked the halls, silent, decaying pathways that now knew his name. Each night, the storage room door opened a little easier, and he knows soon he won't leave at all. When that day comes, another will be hired, another night guard, drawn by the same false promise of peaceful hours and easy pay. They will hear the footsteps, and when they reach the storage room, he will be the one waiting in the chair.